Hi, this is Arjen Lucassen from the Ayreon project, and you're listening to Sonic Perspectives.
I know you want her, but don't you trust her? And wealth is all she craves. Can you see it now? Can you feel it? How she'll drag our good name down. She will drag our good name down. She's the talk of the town.
Hello, this is Nick with Sonic Perspectives, and I'm happy to once again be speaking with one of my absolute musical idols, Mr. Arjen Lucassen. Welcome, Arjen.
Hi, Nicholas. I'm honored for that introduction.
We last spoke when we were talking about the release of Ayreon Universe Live, and
Right.
Since then you have happily dragged me to the Netherlands for another beautiful vacation around Into the Electric Castle Live.
Oh, great.
We got the live release from that. But we're together today to discuss the upcoming Ayreon studio album Transitus, due out September 25th via Music Theory Recordings. That being said, I can't help but ask about the obvious. How has quarantine been for you, and did it have any impact on the writing or recording of the new album?
Well, the thing is, I'm a credible recluse, It's really, I've been in lockdown for 30 years, so I had plenty of experience at this quarantine thing, so not much changed for me. For the album, luckily everything was finished before the whole thing started. So, because I love to have the singers next to me, the musicians. So all the singers flew over to Holland and they were in my studio. And also I was able to go to England to record my favorite doctor of Doctor Who, Tom Baker. So yeah, luckily everything was ready before that. The only thing is it was planned to be a movie. And the whole thing is set up to be a movie. And of course, in these days, it's hard to do a movie. Firstly, a movie costs millions, so it's a lot of investment, which is hard to get these days. Plus, the shooting, of course, is very difficult with all the guidelines.
Yeah, of course. And actually, I would say that kind of sounds like you had kind of the opposite reaction to the quarantine, because over the last few albums, it seemed to be that more and more singers were forced to do their parts long distance, or at least a couple per album. So having all or most of the singers in studio, I would say, was actually probably a return to somewhat normalcy for you.
Oh yes, yeah. Especially people I've never worked with before. It's very, very important to have them next to me. I'm always so honored in the behind the scenes of my albums. My girlfriend interviews the singers, and they're always like, and it was so easy, and it went so fast, and he got so much out of me that I didn't know I could do, which is like the biggest compliment you can give me.
Yeah.
But of course, there are still some singers like Tommy Karavik, who did it in his own studio in Sweden, because I worked with him so many times now. This is the third or the fourth time. And I know exactly what he can do. He knows exactly what I want. So it's better for him to do it at ease, in his studio. Whenever he is having a good day, he will record and, record a little the next day. So once I've worked with someone, and some people I totally trust to do it on their own.
Yeah, when if I'm recommending Ayreon to somebody or any of your music, one of the things I say is that, or one of the things I love is that you always seem to get the best out of singers, whether it be someone new you're unfamiliar with, or getting kind of a different take out of someone more established. I think that's always one of the selling points for Ayreon is what you can bring out of the singers.
Cool, and it's such a big compliment. And of course it's not nice for the band to hear like, hey, he's better in Ayreon than on your album, That's a bit crappy. But yeah, for me that's huge. Yeah.
And speaking of some of the new people, I've known over the past 2 years or so that I've kind of taken a step back as far as I'm not picking up the new music that I'm accustomed to, over the decade and a half maybe that preceded that, I've been a little bit in the backseat and behind on things.
Right,
But for you kind of always seem to, be on the cusp and getting new people.
Oh, yeah.
Like Cammie Gilbert. Do you make a conscious effort to make sure you're out exploring and hearing new things?
Oh yes, oh yes. Because my musical taste is maybe like you, stuck in the 70s. That's when it was happening for me. But I wouldn't want to be totally stuck there. So I want to really, really stay up to date what's happening. I'm subscribed to a lot of magazines. So I read a lot of magazines. A lot of these magazines come with cover mount CDs. I always listen to them to find new talent. And you mentioned Cammie. She was on a compilation or a cover mount album with, I think it was a cover of Whiter Shade of Pale with Oceans of Slumber. And really that's mostly I go jogging or walking outside. So I can't see the bands. I'm just listening, but I heard her and it was like, oh my God, who is this? Going to YouTube immediately to check her out. So yeah, I really want to stay updated and discover new talent.
Yeah, and like you say, you can always pretty much count on any Ayreon album that there's going to be at least one or two, completely new people on there that there haven't been before. So you had mentioned that the album was originally going to be a movie,
right?
And originally, even if there was an audio companion, it wasn't originally slated to be an Ayreon album. It transitioned into that at some point. Can you tell us a little bit about, how that transition was made from movie to audio only to Ayreon?
Sure. Well, I worked on it for about 3 years. I think I started in 2017. And it was set up to be a movie. The singers were actually going to be the actors in the movie. So I already contacted my favorite director, who is like the biggest director in Holland, and he was very interested. I contacted funding agencies. So I was going somewhere. And then after 2 or 3 years, the pandemic started, and I was like, okay, I can't do a movie right now. It's going to be impossible with all the guidelines and impossible to get the funding for it. But I don't want to wait I've got the music now. I don't want to wait for years till I can release it or till I can use it. So I went to the record company and played the stuff to them. And I was like, well, what do you think? Shall we release this and how? And they were like, well, okay, it's very different from your last Ayreon albums. I mean, The Source was a prog metal album, and this is more like a musical. But they said it still has all the Ayreon ingredients. It still has the concept. It still has the many singers. It still has very eclectic music, many different musical styles. So they were like, let's just release it as an Ayreon. And at first I had to get used to that because it wasn't written as an Ayreon. I think I would have done it a little bit different if from the beginning I would have known it was an Ayreon. I think more instrumental parts, maybe a bit more complicated here and there. But I could definitely live with it, and I made some changes in the end, to make it more like an Ayreon. And also played it to a lot of friends of mine. I have like a circle of trust, and I played it, and they said, no, really, this you can release this as an Ayreon. So, but it's scary for me still, because it's very different from other Ayreons. So it's scary for me how people are going to be react to this.
Of course, although to be fair, it could be a normal Ayreon album, and you'd probably still be worried about how people are going to react to it.
well, with the live releases, of Universe and Electric Castle, I had no worries at all.
Yeah,
I was like totally confident. I was like, this sounds so good, and everyone's gonna love this. I was quite sure of myself. But yeah, me. It's true. With every Ayreon album, when I'm done, I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Let's give it to the record company, and then I have to wait 3 months for the release because everything has to be prepared. And in those 3 months, the album becomes the worst album I ever did. It's always the same.
Now, one of the things you're doing with this one, is you're doing a comic book along with the album that's
Right.
available in a lot of different formats. Did that come about as a result of having to ditch the movie, or was that kind of planned from the beginning?
Sort of. It was a little bit in the middle there because I contacted this director I told you about, and he explained to me how you make a movie, and most of all, he explained to me how expensive it is. He said normal budgets are between 50 and 100 million, and big budgets are over 200 million. Low budgets are under 10 million, and a couple of million is laughable. you know? So that made me think like, whoa, am I able to get that much money together for the movie? And at that point, I realized, okay, let's not put all my bets on the movie. Let's make another childhood dream come true because I was a huge comic book nerd when I grew up. Um, and let's make my own comic book. And at least, if the movie will never happen, we have that.
Yeah, and of course for decades, Ayreon was a studio only project.
Right, right.
You only had to focus on the audio aspect of things. Did
Yeah.
did doing Universe and Into Electric Castle live and having to focus on the visual aspect of things help you in making that transition to a visual medium for the comic book?
No, not really. I don't think so. No, I think playing live is a completely different thing. No, making comic was really basically it was very scary for me because it was can I do it? I never did it before, and I didn't feel like learning how to do it. Following all these YouTube courses and stuff like that, and buying books. I was just let's just start. And okay, how many panels does the first page have?
Fair
And
enough.
then writing down those panels and what clothes do they wear? What's in the background? What do they say? What do they think?
Yeah.
And as I was working on it, it was actually it was fun. It went pretty fast, and luckily the guy I worked with, he was very open for all my ideas. I'm a total control freak, perfectionist. So from the beginning, I told him I would drive him crazy and he would hate me. But like what happens with a lot of illustrators that I work with for my albums, I drive them crazy. But this guy was very patient and he had a very good ideas and he knew exactly what I had in mind. And the cool thing is if you buy the earbook of the new album, which has already been sold out, unfortunately. But uh, in the earbook, you see all the sketches and you see all my suggestions. So you can really follow the whole process of how the comic book was made.
You remind me of I know this is going to be a niche comment for people, but there's a South Park episode called Cartman Land where he buys a theme park but doesn't let anybody in at first and drives up demand that way, and that's what it means. You can't have it.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. Yeah, huge Cartman fan here. Yeah, totally.
Very nice.
Yeah, I looked at all of them. Favorite was the Marklars, that the planet.
Oh
Marklar.
yes.
We're still you mentioning everything is with Marklar. Every object, if you
Yes.
can't think of the name, can you give me that Marklar?
Nice.
So we still use it.
With Ayreon, you've always had this large overarching universe with kind of the exception of the new album. It's kind of on its own, but you can't help kind of seeing a parallel between Coheed and Cambria and what they've done. Of course, Ayreon predates
Right.
them. However, they were very early, right out of the gate, using comics to expand on their universe and to draw people in. Did you get any inspiration from them or any other band that has kind of made that switch over to comics?
Not specifically. I love Coheed and Cambria. I love what they do. It's fantastic. And Alice Cooper has done something like this with The Last Temptation. But no, I think I was a huge Spider-Man fan. That's where it comes from. When I was a kid and I discovered the whole Marvel universe and especially Spider-Man. I still have all the comics. It's other kids were outside playing and I in the sun, and I was like in the dark in my bedroom with the windows closed, listening to Deep Purple and Black Sabbath and reading comic books. And no, I loved Spider-Man. It was a lot of humor, and he was like a human character, with human faults. And that's basically where my passion comes from.
Okay. Well, speaking of that, now I was never a huge comic book person. I really knew superheroes from cartoons and things growing up. But what have you thought about the hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars that have been spent bringing all the comic books to the big screen over the last decade or so?
There's some okay ones, but it's not really for me. It's a lot. Indeed, like you say about the millions that has been put in it, the way it looks, and the action and the fights and stuff like that. And maybe I'm just too old for that. I don't know.
Oh, fair enough. You would prefer it stay kind of truer to the stories and the dialogue than be focused on the action.
Oh yes, very much so. As you can notice from my albums, and also the influence I have for my albums, it comes from like I have the song "This Human Equation," which is about human emotions, stuff like that. That's basically what I like. That's why I love Star Trek. It's about the people, and it's about what people do, and it's about the human equation basically. That's actually also where I stole the title from. It's Data saying something to Picard like, "Will we ever understand the human equation?" And I was sitting there writing it down like, "Hey, that's a good title."
Yeah, I
So
think.
yeah. I'm more a start. I'm getting probably getting a lot of hate mail now, but I'm more a Star Trek person than a Star Wars.
And
So
that's what I
I'm
was
more
just
about
about to say. Yeah,
yeah,
it
like
says a lot.
the wars and the laser fights and shit like that. It's not for me.
All right, fair enough. And I kind of have dipped my toes into both worlds, and I see some fun with both. But at the end of the day, I'm probably with you on the Star Trek side of
Okay,
things, and
okay.
I
No,
can
no, don't
understand.
get me wrong. Star Wars was great, especially Empire Strikes Back and the first one. And no, no, no. I love that stuff. How can you go wrong with Harrison Ford? I mean,
Exactly. With the comic book, did that have any effect on the final lyrics? Because usually you're just you're thinking about the vocal melodies and getting through the album, but now you have this comic book to pair with. Did that change any of the final lyrics to better help with that?
well, the lyrics were done, I think, when I did the comic book. I think
Okay.
they were mostly done. Then, of course, you want to avoid using the lyrics you use in the song text, to also use them in the comic book. That felt kind of cheesy. I did it here and there, like if you have Simona as the angel of death appear on the scene, and she goes, "Hello there,"
Yeah.
in true David Lee Roth style. I mean, that had to be in the comic too. But
I'm kind of glad you kept it sparse because I'll tell you one of the I guess this is probably quite a few years old now, but they did a novel for Rush's Clockwork Angels, and I absolutely love Kevin J. Anderson's other work. He was the author on that, but
I
throughout.
know I've been in contact with him. He did some stuff for me too. Yeah,
Okay.
brilliant stuff. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
the book, other thoughts aside, it was just completely littered with lyrics from Rush.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
by the end, it definitely got to be too much. It was
I
just
know, I know, I know.
overloaded.
Yeah, no, I
Love
understand.
him and
Yeah,
love his work, but
yeah.
it was a little bit too fan servicey by the
I can
end of it.
imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, yeah.
But now you of course were working with an illustrator for the comic book. What was it like in picking an illustrator? Given there's such a wide style of people out
I
there.
know, and it wasn't easy because I'm totally spoiled. Like I get the best singers in the world. I get to work with the best guitar players in the world, like Satriani and Friedman on the new album. I also want the best illustrator. So it was months of looking and just checking people out, Googling and asking people. At some point, I asked the guy who did the comic stuff on my solo album, which also very much has a comic book look. My solo album, Lost in a New Reel. And the first thing this guy said, well, I will never work with you again, because he knows what a perfectionist I am. But I will help you find someone. And he directed me to a publisher in Chile. And this guy had like 10 people, and he sent them to me. And I came to, I think, number 4, which was Felix Viga. And I was like, oh my God, that is the guy. And mostly because of the colors. And it wasn't like comic book. It was like every panel is a little painting in itself, and that's what I really loved. And then the guy said, well, you're in luck, because he also likes the music, which is very important for me. If I, because you work with a guy like that for a year, so you want to inspire each other. I want to send him music, and he'll be like, oh, cool, I see colors or whatever, and he will be sending me images, and I'll be like, oh, cool, and inspire me. And so luckily he liked the music, and that really helped. That gives you some chemistry.
And going back to the audio for a little bit, we talked about Cammy Gilbert, who was, of course, a little bit newer on the scene. But then you also work with Dee Snider for the first time, not quite so new on the scene.
No.
What would you say is easier to work with for the first time? The younger folks who maybe are less experienced but more open, or guys like Dee who are well set in what they do?
Well, thing is, the big names like Dee Snider and Bruce Dickinson and Fish and James Lepre and Michael Akerfeld and Devin Townsend, you don't tell them what to do. You just, I record guide vocals myself. Then I sent it to a great singer, because I want to raise the bar for the eventual singers. So that's what they get. They get guide vocals by a great singer. And I always tell them, especially these big names, like, just listen to it once or twice, so you have a general idea what I want, but please make it your own, because I'm a fan of these singers. That's why I asked them. Mm-hmm. So I want them to put their own style in it, and with Dee Snider it's easy. I know what he can do, and I know in what range he sounds powerful. So I just, of course, he didn't come to my studio. He recorded it in a studio in New York. All I had to do was tell him what happens in the story, tell him what his motivation is in the song, and give him the guide vocals by the other singers, who was, by the way, Mike Mills, who is also on the album as a lead singer. And both are great. It's worked great to work with your idols like Dee Snider, but it's equally great to discover new talent like Cammy, and to have her come to my studio and to really work with her and have a lot of interaction. So I don't think one is easier than the other. It's just basically, if I like the voice, it's always easy.
Fair enough. You had mentioned Michael Mills in there, who's become a little bit of an Ayreon mainstay.
Oh yeah,
that's a good thing. And I have to imagine he's one of the few people that you can go to. You have a new role on the album. It's literally the role of dumb piece of rock, and he'd be like, "I can work with that."
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't have a part for him, and I swore that he would be part of everything I do. So I was like, I got to think of a part for him. And then I thought, well, why not a statue? I think it was inspired by some kind of movie where a poster came alive and Uncle Sam jumped out of the poster, something like that. And I was like, well, Mike, I got a part for you after all on the album. I'm not sure if you're going to like it. And he said, okay, I can take it. Just tell me. I said, well, you're going to be a dumb piece of rock. And I still remember, he didn't think, he immediately said, like, Arjen, I'd play a banana for you.
But I mean, it's amazing what he can do with a role like that, and how he brings that to life. He did a fantastic job
Oh
as
yes.
always.
Oh yeah, yeah. As always, yeah. He's really. I keep saying it. He's one of my heroes. I discovered him on YouTube doing a cover of Jethro Tull, "Thick as a Brick," and ever since then, I'm like, oh my God, this guy is so incredibly good. At everything, not just singing, but also composing and playing guitar and drumming, and it's it's quite annoying
He
actually.
is very very much multi-talented, much like yourself. There, he really does amaze. Um, Before our time comes to an end, as we are coming to that, there's two questions that I want to make sure I get to here. I'm going to skip down.
Sure.
One of the big news leading into Transitus was that Ed Warby would not be playing drums on the album because it wasn't originally an Ayreon album, but he
Right.
got Juan van Emmerloot, and I apologize if I mispronounced that.
Totally.
It's almost 7 a.m. Like I said, I know I'm gonna make those mistakes.
No, but it's a weird language, Dutch, man. I can totally forgive you.
At this point, you've been working with Ed so long that talking him through what you want is got to be pretty much second nature. But how was the process of getting the sounds you wanted out of the new drummer?
Not mentioning his name anymore. Avoiding that.
That's right. I
No.
only butcher it once.
Good one. Oh no, he's it was totally different with Ed. He's a human machine. Let's face it. He's a metal drummer. I recorded the drum rig, or I programmed the drum computer. Give it to him. That's what he plays. With Juan, it was totally different. He has his own studio at home. So with the very basic demos, which was just a little MIDI piano, I went to him and we worked on the songs together actually. And it was like, I needed a drummer who was very eclectic, who had many different styles, very versatile. But the metal side had to be in there. And that's hard, you can easily find funky drummers or jazzy drummers, but to find a drummer who has the funky and the jazzy feel, but also the metal feel is hard. And this guy had it, and so we could really explore new things. And I all the time I'd be asking, what would you do here that people wouldn't expect, and that's how we came up with these weird jazzy parts in Message from Beyond. And so yeah, it was very very cool for me to work this way, and I think it's also what this album needed, because it's not a typical it's not a typical prog or a typical metal album.
Yeah. All right. Well, the one question I am legally obligated to ask to finish things off. 2017, we had Ayreon Universe live. 2019, Into Electric Castle live. So, assuming we can get a vaccine and return to normal, any ideas for 2021 and beyond?
Totally. And it was the plan, to do something in September 2021. Problem here is that we need a year to set a show up. And also we have to start selling tickets at least half year in advance, because it's a very expensive show and we need to,
of course,
invest in it. Which means that, end of this year or early next year, we would have to sell, like with Electric Castle, we would have to sell 12,000 tickets to people in 64 countries, which is not going to happen at this point, And so by the end of this year, we're going to have to decide whether we go ahead with the shows next year. Joost, my partner in crime, is very positive, but I am less positive. I don't think it's going to happen that fast. So I'm afraid we're going to have to skip this year and just hope that it will be possible next year.
Well, I think a lot of people...
Sorry, the year after.
I think a lot of people are just going to be relieved, as I am, that there is more events, kicking around. We understand that the practicalities of it might not happen as quick as we want, but just to know that we'll get a return and we'll get to come back. It makes people happy.
I know it. So many happy people with the last shows, and even though you may know that I hate it, the performing, and we have to do it. We simply have to do it, and it's too much fun for everyone. And we realize that. So we don't want to do it too often, but at least once every 2 years, a couple of shows.
That's the perfect time frame. I only have so much vacation time.
Okay. Yeah, good one.
But no, very happy to hear it. I wish, as always, great success again. The album is Transitus. It's coming out September 25th. Any final thoughts or comments for everyone before we go?
Well, as I said, it's if people are familiar with my music, they will have to get used to this one being more of a musical than an opera. I'm just in my insecure phase, so I shouldn't say too much, because otherwise people are not even gonna take the time to listen to it. So
I think many people will listen to it. I don't think you'll have any problem with that end of things. And as always, Arjen, thank you very much, and wishing you great success with everything.
You're welcome, Nicholas. My pleasure.
All right.
Talk to you next time.
Yes, so hopefully talk to you next time, and hope you enjoy the weeks leading up here to the release. And like I say, I I really don't think you'll have any issues with the release or the normal reactions or anything like that.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
So,
thanks.
All right, have a good rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Okay, you too, man.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Arjen Lucassen, mastermind behind Ayreon, and we did talk in there a little bit about Dee Snider and his participation on the album. He plays on a track that really brings a lot of energy at a time when I think the album needed it. I really started to appreciate the song once I got the full album, and so of the 3 singles, we're going to play that one for you now. This is Get Out Now.
Alas, I was afraid of this. Henry indeed betrays his brother Daniel. He tells their father everything. Livid with anger, father summons Daniel to the Great Hall. Nothing good ever happens when one is summoned to the Great Hall by one's father. And to put it mildly, this particular father is not a man to be tampered with. I think it's a pity he was ever born.
Turn around and get out. We don't want you around here. Since your mother left us, you've been high.